The plan to prevent planes from colliding.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by C3 AI. C3 Generative AI provides ChatGPT enterprise search that is verifiable, secure, and accurate across all enterprise data. C3.ai. This is enterprise AI.
From Marketplace, I'm Sabri Benishore, in for David Brancaccio. Airplanes in the U.S. come far closer to colliding at airports far more frequently than many people imagine. New York Times reporting revealed there were 46 close calls last month alone. Now, the Federal Aviation Administration is shelling out $120 million to help reduce the risk of accidents on runways. The money is going to several airports around the country. Marketplace's Nova Safo has more.
The FAA has awarded Boston's Logan Airport $45 million to simplify the layout of its airfield. That's where, in February, a JetBlue flight coming in for a landing came too close to a private jet, which was taking off. The rate of safety incidents on airport runways in the U.S. has increased by 24% over the last decade, according to data provided by the FAA. The $120 million it's now allocating will help Boston's Logan, Reagan National in D.C., and 6 other airports reconfigure or upgrade their airfields. Recent safety lapses have also been blamed on a shortage of air traffic controllers. The FAA says it's hired 1,500 additional ones, and the Biden administration is seeking more funding from Congress to hire even more. I'm Nova Safo for Marketplace.
The former trucking company Yellow is now in bankruptcy proceedings, so it is selling off its assets to pay back creditors. There's one piece of the company that buyers seem particularly interested in. It's terminals. These are large logistical facilities where payloads are transferred between trucks to get to their final destination. 2 rival trucking companies have submitted bids, each over $1 billion, for Yellow's network of terminals. Marketplace's Henry Epp explains why these things are so valuable.
Trucking terminals are sort of like regional hub airports, the ones where you might have a layover.
It's where all the deliveries come in, are consolidated into one load of things going in the same direction.
David Carell is a research scientist at MIT. He says it's expensive to build a network of these hubs, but over a century, Yellow did that.
It's sort of like a collector's collection all of a sudden hit the market.
And it's a good collection. Many of these terminals are in or near metro areas where regulations make it difficult to build new terminals now, says Margaret Kidd, a supply chain and logistics professor at the University of Houston.
You just can't go into a major metropolitan area in most parts of the U.S. and create what Yellow has created over the last 100 years.
2 companies are bidding for Yellow's full collection of terminals, but they probably won't need them all, says Joe Orschlin, a vice president at commercial real estate firm CBRE.
Some of these would certainly be spun off after the acquisition.
And he says they'll likely find plenty of eager buyers. I'm Henry Epp for Marketplace.
All right, let's do the numbers. The FTSE in London is up 3.2%. The S&P futures are up 0.6%. NASDAQ futures are up 1.1%. Dow futures, though, are down 0.1%, 38 points. Yield on the 10-year Treasury is 4.208%, coming down from its highs. And there are earnings reports, and then there are earnings reports. NVIDIA said its revenue in the second quarter more than doubled to $13.5 billion, and it expects to make $3.5 billion more than expected in the third quarter because NVIDIA chips power AI. NVIDIA stock is up about 8% in pre-market trading.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Otter.ai. If someone's late to the meeting, there's no worries. Otter's AI-powered meeting assistant takes live notes and now answers questions like, what were the action items? Learn more at Otter.ai. And by Charles Schwab. The people at Schwab are passionate about helping investors. Learn more at schwab.com/whyschwab.
Wildfires in Hawaii, Canada, Algeria, severe flooding in Vermont, record-breaking heat from Arizona to China. The climate is changing before our eyes, and we have to work in it, which raises a question for employers. To what extent do they have to adapt so their workers can cope? Jennifer Moss is a workplace cultural strategist, and she spoke with my colleague, David Brancaccio.
I mean, we think right away of road crews or delivery people working outside in very hot conditions, hotter conditions. Crucial issue, right? But it's more than that you're thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing this across the board now. When you look at the reports of readiness for global organizations, it shows that around 2/3 of large companies have at least one asset highly exposed to the physical risk of climate change. And yet only 1 in 5 companies has a plan in place to adapt to these risks. So we're seeing more and more companies take an effort to get prepared to handle some of these big, situations, these crises. But a lot of people are still very unprepared.
All right, so a workplace may be air conditioned on the inside, but that may not help if it's 6 inches above sea level and at risk for getting flooded out.
That's exactly it. And we're seeing companies realize that they have to change their facilities, get prepared. When you really look at the impact, if they don't, I mean, we're looking at, for example, Amazon, he is placing a deep threat on retention. They had 100% turnover last year, and they're finding that some of the reasons why people are leaving are because of heat and stress.
In many business contracts, there's something called the force majeure. If something giant happens, an act of God, you can get out of the contract. But if there is a big natural disaster, a force majeure that happens, and employees can't get into work normally, I don't see anything in many employee handbooks that tells you what the rules are supposed to be.
We're starting to see more organizations setting up, emergency savings benefits, but it's a pretty nebulous. There's not a lot of concrete policies, and that's why we need it codified into the government. We're seeing a massive competition in talent, and we're going to continue to see this talent shortage. And so if you're a company that's really clear in how you are going to support people in these environments, in these dangerous environments, in this future of real impact from climate change, you're going to be the organization that stands above.
Jennifer Moss is an author and researcher specializing in workplace issues. Her books include Unlocking Happiness at Work and The Burnout Epidemic. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me, David.
That was Marketplace's David Brancaccio. And in New York, I'm Sabri Benishore with the Marketplace Morning Report. From 8 p.m., American Public Media.